I'm Stefan Baumann. I would like to invite you on a special journey to discover the splendor, encounter the grandeur, feel the excitement. Come along with me as we experience the thrill of painting outdoors. A 3-day journey that will change your art forever. In one of America's most stunning locations, Mount Shasta. Everything you need to know is on our website, www.stefanbaumann.com. There's only so much you can get for a plein air painting. And that's why it's really hard to be a plein air painter and make a living, because you got to go to all these events, you got to do all this stuff, and at best most of them sell for around $1,000. It's like that's kind of where they are. And they go up, and they just lost somebody that they were selling quite well at around 400 to 800, and you come in and you go, here I am, and they look at it and go, well, your quality's not that bad, let's have you in, because they need you. Galleries will just take you. You might be the best artist, but if you walk in there, if their clientele isn't interested in blue paintings and you got blue paintings, they're not going to have you, regardless of how good it is. Because no gallery really knows what to do with artists anyway. All they do is open up the door. And so when they open up the door, there's a certain clientele that shows up, and then they start catering their paintings to that clientele. But most galleries now rely on the artists, collectors to come in. Gone are the days when galleries would make you. So in the 80s, you'd have a relationship with the gallery, and the gallery would take their own money and have an art show. They wouldn't expect you to pay for it, but now they do. And then they would start putting ads in all the magazines at their cost, not yours. Try to find a gallery that does that now. Almost every painting, almost every artist has to front that somehow or repay the gallery. I mean, the artists get it in the gallery, and then this is what blows me with galleries. They go, well, we have expenses. And it's like, yeah, you do. Yeah. So you got electricity bill. Most of the people who work in galleries work on commission. So they try to find some high school kid that's stupid enough that doesn't have really a lot of expenses to buy into that. So they're always like, and they're not educated to sell anything. If you go to a gallery, how oftentimes are you actually sold anything? They go, can I help you? If you have any questions, don't bother, just let me know. And they go back playing their solitaire game behind the computer looking busy. But basically, it's the light and the rent. The products that are in the room cost them nothing. They're all in consignment. Now the store next door is a dress shop. And they have the same expenses. They have the electricity, and they have the clerk. But the thing is, people who work in dress shops and gift shops, they're smarter than people who work in galleries because they get a paycheck. So it might be minimum wage, but they're getting paid, right? And everything that's in that store has to be bought before it goes on the shelf. So the store owner has to pay for their merchandise. And if it doesn't sell, they don't pick up a phone and say, hey, your shit didn't sell, can you come and pick it up? That's all the gallery owner does. Those people next door have to baby, nurture, insure. A lot of galleries don't even insure the paintings. They treat your frames like they're free because to them they are. They didn't pay $500 for the frame, which is what a frame like this costs. And if it's too heavy, they let it drop on the floor and have it separate. The store has to nurture everything they have because they have an investment. And if it doesn't sell, they get hyper about selling it. So their sales clerks are pushed to sell that product. They put it on sale. They mark it down. They mark it down. Everything to get their money back. But a gallery owner goes, pick up your shit and bring some new stuff. This stuff isn't selling. Or they'll just kick you out of the gallery and have somebody else that is crazy enough to have their paintings in that gallery. But that's basically galleries in a nutshell. They're important to have and they're wonderful, but the reality is that a lot of it is just, a showroom. And if you don't have the clientele to go to that showroom, you probably won't sell because they don't have sell clerks that have ever opened up a marketing book. And right now I'm working with Abraham with marketing, and he's learning how to do marketing, right? You like marketing? Would you say marketing is as important as painting?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, if you want to do it long term.
You work hard, Stefan. You really work hard. I'm just so impressed. I thought you were just kind of flaunting here, flaunting there. You work hard at what you do.
Oh, thank you.
You do. It's really impressive.
Well, I want people to learn.
You pound the pavement. I mean, there's just no, yeah.
People don't get that. When I finish up a workshop, I'm exhausted.
You have to be.
Like,
I know what I teach all, just go home dead. But yeah, I get it. And I just, and you have to drive hours to get to these people. And you have such a deep passion for what you do, too. There's just no getting it, even though you're fling out a lot of BS.
well, I mean, I have to entertain you guys. If I don't keep Molly on her toes, she falls asleep. And so I'm constantly having to pick on her.
Yeah.
And she wakes up and is like, But it's her birthday today, so I'm trying to be kind to her.
Oh,
So
that's very sweet. But no, what I'm saying is I'm really impressed with you and what you do and how you reach it. And I mean, you've got people traveling from all over the place.
But they come because I work my ass off.
You worked your ass off,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Your paintings.
But everything I do is part of the marketing thing.
Right.
So I have to market to be able to reach Toronto, Canada. These people wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that.
Exactly, for all your coaching. 900 people?
No, I have 90 coaching students.
Oh, sorry. I threw out another zero.
If I had 90, I wouldn't have enough time. But I spend a half an hour with every one of them.
I know.
And when they call up, I'm pretty much focused on them. I mean, Lisa has been with me for a year and a half. And, it's like, and she hardly ever misses a phone call. I cannot believe that my students, even if they don't paint that week, still make their phone calls. I couldn't do that. I couldn't make a phone call every week on a certain time. I just don't know how my students do it. But on Saturday, midday, Abraham's been with me he's never missed. And even when he doesn't paint, he still calls me. And we have a discussion about things and life and stuff. And he says, oh, God, every time I get off of the phone here, I'm inspired to go out and paint.
Bottom line is you just work really, really hard.
Oh, thank you.
You see that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I have fun too.
Yeah,
This is my stage, so I have fun. That's why I banter around. Because the problem with YouTube, and I have a YouTube on this, is that basically you have to unplug YouTube. You have all these wonderful artists out there, and every time you go on, there's a new one. And you go, oh, wow, this person's got the secret. And you sit there and you listen to it and go, well, I kind of knew that. And then you watch another one, it's like, oh, there's, because it's what YouTube calls click porn. And basically it's like all of a sudden something else pops up and you go, oh, Tischler, wonder who he is, his paintings. And you sit there for a half an hour watching his video. And then all of a sudden this guy comes up that looks like a pirate. And you go, oh, I wonder what he has to say. And then you go and you spend all afternoon.
But that's how I found you. Yeah.
That's how you found me, yeah. Yeah, you through the thing. But the problem is that if they're actually got to this point where they're listening to this video, they're either hooked or they're not. But the thing is, the thing that you have to do is you have to get that nobody really has any secrets. Well, I do, but not very many, but one. But the thing is, and you got that at hello. So anybody who calls me can get that from me. But anyway, but when you do, it changes your world. Didn't it, Brian? It's like, whoa, I never thought of art that way. It changes literally, I can change somebody's way of painting in a half hour. So anyway, but the thing is, huh?
it turned me on my head. I mean, it kind of blew my mind because I had a beer stat open. I always do. I've got on the walls and on the monitor and stuff. And he told me about this stuff. I'm like, oh shit. So I started looking at this while I'm on the phone with him. And I just kept staring at this. It's actually a tree scene of his. But it was true.
Yeah.
And it kind of blew me away because everything I've always learned was just the opposite.
Yeah, so it has you really, so the thing is, it's really hard to paint, and that's why coaching works and not teaching doesn't. Because a lot of this stuff is because you don't know how to see. Remember, paint what you see, but you have to know what it is that you're looking at. You know, somebody has to say, this is what it is that you're seeing, because your brain doesn't know that. Once you kind of get that, and you learn how to see things, the best thing you need to do is unplug, unplug, unplug. Whether or not Tischler or who's the other artist we were talking about, that McVicker. You know, as wonderful as they are, Matt Smith is wonderful, they are, all these artists that have all this stuff that are trying to sell you videotapes. I've got videotapes if you want to watch me paint. But the thing is, all of that stuff is just, you know, entertainment.
You have to survive.
Well, that's why there's so many teachers, but it's all entertainment. When it comes right down to it, I mean, the old masters didn't have, you know, YouTube, and they didn't have all of this stuff, and all of this, you know, one artist will say, oh, don't ever use zinc white. And then another artist says, I use zinc white. And you're going, what do I believe? And so the thing is, what you do is you go on a quest. Now, I learned how to paint. You know, I started painting when I was 11. Well, I was like 8, I think, but I started when I was 8, but then I was more interested in being a bowler, because that's really what my passion. I was really good at bowling. I had a 230 average. I mean, it was like crazy. So my mom didn't want me to be a bowler, so she put me into art classes, which backfired on her because she didn't think I was going to be an artist either. You know, she wanted to be a cake decorator. So,
But Stefan, the old masters, they got together and they shared secrets.
Not all of them.
Well, I mean,
they had the
they didn't
academy.
watch YouTube, but there's nothing. People get together, share secrets, and then they try it. Like a lot of people try pointillism, a lot of people try cubism, but then the point was that they were painting.
They were painting.
They were actively painting.
And the thing is, they would say, oh, I went out and painted today, and this was my observation. And somebody would go, I had the same observation, but I saw it this way. So it's hard to create in a vacuum. But the thing is, so much information is brought out. And I have so many students that take workshops and they go, well, how was that for you? And they go, oh my God, it was just like a really long 3-day video that I saw on YouTube. They would take whatever they teach on YouTube and extend it over 3 days, and they go, so bored, I thought I would get something else out of this workshop. Maybe some of you are saying about this workshop, it's like, oh my God, it's just like his videos, I don't need that. But anyway, but the thing is, you've got to shut everything off. And it's like I even told you yesterday when you came to me and you said, oh my God, it's like, I said, you forget everything I tell you. It's like the golden mean. Learn it and then forget it. Don't base your paintings around any of this stuff, because then you'll become a little Baumanette. And who wants another Baumanette? I can't stand the competition. It's like, I want you to be yourself. You know, so sit down and paint. And then when you run into a problem, say, what would Stefan do? And then you assess it. And then you say, is there a central focal point? I can't tell you on one of my paintings, I was sitting there for, several months, because it was one of these big epic paintings with the bears that I told you about with the waterfall. And finally I got home around Christmas and I had put the painting down for about 4 months because I just got tired of it. And I put it back up and I looked at it and I said, why is this painting not working? And I went like, there's not a central focal point in this painting. I was like, I painted it out, you know, and I was like going, oh, so I went in, and this was right at sunset. It was getting really dark in my studio. I didn't even have the light on. And so I squeezed out my colors that I like for a central focal point, and I mixed that up. And in this really dark studio, I went in and I put a central focal point in right next to the head of the bear and brought all this light on there. I was like, I'm like, whoa, I need to watch more of my videos. So the thing is, you have to, when you run into a problem, then you ask the questions. Don't change the direction of the way you paint. Be yourself. Don't try to paint. And the deadly thing about workshops is that a teacher will come up like McVicker, they'll say, okay, I want you to all paint, this is the way I do it. So they all go there to try it. And the thing is, they all fail in that because they're not used to painting that way. They're used to painting a certain way. And so workshops can be really deadly, especially when everybody follows the mantra. All what I do is fill you up with a lot of information. And you assess what works and doesn't work. And, and if you notice, I start off my videos and my conversations like, what were you thinking? Because I don't care what I think, I care what you think. And then you tell me and I go, yeah, you made it. I don't necessarily like the way you painted it, but you did communicate to it. I might love the way you painted it and it's completely different, but you got your point across. Perfect practice. Every painting is a Mona Lisa. In fact, Leonardo da Vinci viewed the Mona Lisa as a practice painting. He carried it around with him for 30 years. That's an artist that wasn't really thinking, I got to pay the mortgage. 30 years. And he never sold it to the person who commissioned it to him. He left it to his lover afterwards. So yeah, practice. But the thing is, he was perfect practicing. He didn't like slap some paint on and go, well, that's kind of close enough. I got the idea. He practiced perfect. That's why you don't practice on throwaway canvases and on paper. You don't practice on cheap products using lousy brushes, because the brush is everything. And if you're using, I'm going to buy good brushes when I get good, it's like you'll never be that good with those shitty brushes. You'll always have a shitty painting. You go, I'm never good enough to buy brushes. I go, because you got to buy the brushes first. Some of my students use sticks. There's so much hair worn off the top of there's no more hair left. It's a stick that has a metal top on it and I said, it's a stick, you can't paint with that. You want to lay in the painting as close to as quick as you can. So you want the blues, the grays. You don't want to just go with brown. That's why I suggest going with blue and brown, because you can take that blue and brown and go into more blue and more brown. And if you look at the old masters up until the Renaissance, a lot of those old paintings are almost monochromatic. In fact, when you look at the Mona Lisa, it's not really fleshy like a baby's flesh. It's brown, and most of them are just, and that's because they were painting by candlelight pretty much, and they were mainly getting values. But the thing is, when you see things, you see more in values than you do in color. And so what you want to do is introduce where I had some greens. I threw in a little viridian green in there to mix into that so that the brown got more greenish, just as a footnote. And if I decided to leave a lot of this unfinished, I put a couple more brush strokes on that, and that would look like, oh man, I'm a master painter, but it's just not done painting. If you want to know what beautiful brush strokes are, they usually should be found in the middle central focal point. And if you look at some of these great painters like Keyes and Richard Schmidt, they're not busy strokes. They're actually very careful, detailed painting. And you can watch them paint, and the rest of the painting falls apart. And we think it's just loose painting, but it's unfinished painting.
Talk about horizontal and vertical strokes.
Okay, so even your brush strokes matter. So first thing, you should never paint the same brush stroke twice, which a lot of artists do. You should always change the direction of the brush. So if you're going to paint the skin, you don't want to go back and forth like this. You want to go in different directions. And then what a lot of people do is that when they paint something, they follow the contour. And you always want to go counter contour. So if your arm's going like this and you're painting this in, you want to go counter contour. But you don't want to go over and over and over again. You want to go different directions. And every brush stroke should be different. And so brush strokes are like musical notes. And so when you hear artists, they say, well, you don't want to lap your painting. Well, if we actually put that to music, it would be like, yeah, 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 yeah. And that gets tiring after a while. So your brush strokes should be long and short. They should be different. And they should go on visibly. So what you want to do is kind of think about them as music notes. And so what you want to do is pause between every stroke. So if we actually look at Sargent painting, he would sit and concentrate on a stroke while he was mixing the color. And then he would walk up and he would put that stroke onto the canvas, just the way he envisioned it. And then he would put his brush down. And he'd look at that one stroke. And then the next stroke would be, how do I advance that stroke, or do I leave it? Does that stroke need a softer edge to it? Put it in now. And then he'll mix his next color, or even a variation of the same color, and he'll walk up and he'll add a stroke to that that harmonizes or has something to do with the initial stroke. So people are just busy putting strokes on a canvas. just to cover the space. But every time you touch that canvas, it says something. So we talked about the placement and composition. You don't want to have things equally spaced because it's irritating to the viewer. Nature doesn't show up that way. And so what you want to do with painting, basically a stroke, is you hold the brush this way in your hand, this way in your hand like this, and use your whole arm. So it's an active thing, and use your whole arm. And some people say, yeah, it's really hard to do a straight line. It's because they're holding it like this and they're trying to hold their hand steady. But you can do a straight line if you use your arm to make it. Okay, so when you're doing that, you have a lot of options. Every time you put a stroke in, even the direction of the stroke matters. So if you do a vertical stroke, the light falls onto it vertically and actually creates a darker color. And you can take that same stroke and you paint across the surface, and that same color will look brighter than the vertical stroke. And that's because when you put a stroke, brush stroke across the canvas this way, all the little hairs and things that are in that brush stroke that make it, that some of them you don't even see, will actually capture light like little shells. And they will actually reflect light differently than if you go horizontal. Okay, so that will have anything to do with it. And I think paintings are created in between the strokes. The actual stroke part of the painting is a reaction to your thought process and what you're thinking. How are you going to put that stroke on? When a pianist plays a symphony or plays a piece of music by Brahms, the music is written. There's nothing you can do about it. You have to follow it. The symphony is playing behind it. At that moment, every time he hits a note, the only freedom that that pianist has is he's allowed to play with the space between the notes, even if those notes are practically on top of each other. There's a hesitation that he can put in to that stroke. And then the intensity of that stroke, the way the pianist hits that note, is entirely his. Although he still is dictated to what, yeah, so every time you put a brush stroke down, you have a moment to offer your intention, your idea, your technique. And so when that brush stroke, when I told you your style, you pick up that paint and you process it through your brain. You envision it on there. And yet, if that stroke is an eyelash, it has to fall in that. But how you put that on makes all the difference in the world. And most people go, yep, 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 yep. And yet other people can actually put an eyelash on in one stroke, and it looks like eyelashes, but yet there's not a hair there. You know, so interpretation. I don't know. I think every time I put something in, it interpreted something. All these brush strokes, I didn't go in and just paint in flat. Everything I put in here was intentional. Look at even in here. Look at all these different brush strokes and stuff. You don't see anything repeating in here. Well, you know, when you demonstrate too, I mean, it's bad enough that I dragged you through that demonstration for that long. You know, I demonstrated something that this painting, if I were down outdoors, this process would have taken no less than 8 minutes. I would have gotten to this without all the conversations and stuff in between and the style and stuff.
I feel great pressure when I'm out painting to get that canvas covered.
Yes, you should, because the world is changing while you're trying to cover the canvas. Use a bigger brush, use more turpentine, move ahead. If you'd like to try coaching for yourself, whether you're a beginner or an advanced painter, please don't hesitate to give me a call at 415-606-9074. Join us on our website at www.thegrandview.org and get more information about our show. There you can download our free book, Everything You Need to Know About Outdoor Painting.